Yo, film gods, it's beginning to look a lot like the middle of November. So please, it's coming. Christmas is coming, but I haven't got my tree up yet. It's not yet. Feels a bit early, but it's coming. It's coming. Today's episode, honestly, I just had such a great time. Because the man is a legend. The man is a legend. Okay, in his own words, he's rapped and he's had his time and he's had an amazing time. And actually, it's about the film crew, but the most knowledgeable and the most wisdom are going to be those people that have been doing it for the amount of years that he's done it. And in this time where, these uncertain times, the episode really deals with spotting an opportunity and going for it, trusting your gut, doing what feels right, taking a chance. And in these kind of uncertain COVID times, it's those opportunities that are going to present themselves. If you open yourself up to them, they will present themselves. And then it's just about having that courage and conviction to kind of go through with it. And that's the episode. But the way that he says it and in his own vibe is Stevie G at his best. So ladies and gents, big up. Let's do it.
Let's get started.
So, recording. So ladies and gentlemen, film gods, I'm very honoured and privileged to have been able to carve out some time of this man's life to be able to come on the episode. It was a name that as I was running, I would always hear constantly when I was at work. And recently during the summer, he turned up. I did a charity walk and he was there, David Bailey style, with his camera, ready to take some snaps at La Isla Negra at Black Island. And I'm just so pleased and so privileged that he's coming on, and he said yes, and we're gonna have a great chat. So sir, without any further ado from me, what is your name? And I normally ask what's your role on the call sheet, but I guess it's a different vibe than the normal one. So, but I'll ask the question. So, what's your name and what's your role on the call sheet, sir?
Okay. How you doing?
Yeah, good.
So, my name's Guidici or Guidici, but most people know me as Steve G.
G.
That's, I guess, because he can't pronounce my name. So that's what I've become known, and that's what I think about myself in a work environment, which I don't kind of do. And yeah, I guess, for the purpose of this chat, I'm a bit of an imposter. I'm no longer doing what I've done for a hell of a long time, Yeah. But essentially, my role on the call sheet is I do appear on the call sheet.
Yeah, you're there, front page.
I'm there,
true. You are.
Studio manager,
There you go.
I was director at Black Island Studio, MD at Black Island Studios, but I was a studio manager.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, I've always said, and I'll say it again, that's part estate agent, part janitor, and part maintenance guy.
Love it. Yeah, I love it.
That's what it's about, and there's lots of people that will agree with me, when I was talking. One of the things is I kind of didn't really talk to people outside the industry about what I did, all the time, because people say, oh, the standard reply is, have you met anyone famous, blah blah blah, but I kind of describe it to people. Well, we've got some big old sheds in West London, and people come and film it, which essentially is what it is, And I guess a lot of people would agree with that, But
where did where did that start? Like, I guess most people think of students go to film school and they want to be directors and DOPs and all the rest of it. But how do you become a studio? Like, how does that role become part of your life? Is it something that you kind of went, I love filming and I love logistics and this kind of suits me, or is it just something that you kind of suddenly went, oh, I'm doing this now?
I'm doing this now. Totally by accident.
Okay.
And I think that's true of quite a lot of people in the industry, especially, for example, I guess in the construction side of things in the art department, because you look at the art department, and a lot of them have been fine artists, have been graphics, and they've kind of maybe someone's asked them to do something and they thought, I kind of like this, and they've grown into that. I guess it's different from, sort of the camera side of things where it's more structured, but a lot of people, and, and also, one of the things that I feel is, it's not about how you enter, but a lot of us in this industry are misfits in the in the best possible way. Do you know what I mean?
Agreed.
We're here because we like the vibe, we like the crew ethos, we like especially in the commercial sector, which is where you and I, you work and I worked. Not always. They also like that, and I certainly like that. My thing was like, kiss them day to day and kiss them goodbye tomorrow. You don't have that kind of content. You don't have that boredom that you could get. I mean,
completely.
I retired 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, Christ, I probably would have shot myself if it was in a proper job going to length. Do you know what I mean? Where I had to wear a suit and a tie and go into an office 9 to 5 and do that all the time.
Why do a 9 to 5 when you can do a 7 till midnight?
Exactly. 7 to midnight the next day. And the way I got into it was I was living in London. I'd come down here. I've spent more of my life in England, and basically during the yuppie boom of the late 70s, early 80s, I was kind of working with a developer in Docklands. And this developer, I went away for a while, and when I came back, this developer guy phoned me up and he said, "Look, I've just bought this dog biscuit factory in Bermondsey."
Dog biscuit?
Dog biscuit. Spiller's Dog Biscuit Factory. Spiller's Dog Biscuit. It's a glamorous world we live in.
I tell you what,
And he bought this dog biscuit factory, which was about 4 acres next to a site he already owned in Bermondsey, and he was waiting to get, at the time it was in Southwark, the whole planning thing was very, very contentious. He was waiting to get planning permission to turn it into, the yuppie dream of, 300 flats or whatever. But in the meantime, an art director, I think it might have been Tony Common actually, had climbed the gates and found out who owned it and said, "We'd like to come and shoot a pop video there."
Wow.
So he kind of had this idea, while I'm waiting to develop it, I'm going to run it as a film studio.
Brilliant.
So he asked me, he said, "Would you come and kind of, help out, look after it, etc., etc."
With no other kind of experience of filming, it was just like more of a
no other experience. That was definitely the estate agent and maintenance guy side. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we were. It was a location. So so I said, I'd just come back. I can't remember if it was from Spain or New Zealand, and I was kind of doing nothing. And I said, yeah. And I'd worked with Andrew before. I said, yeah. I'll come down and talk to you. And so effectively, kind of said to me, like, I was basically what the legend Mitch is doing now.
Oh,
a grade below Mitch. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think you can get bigger and better than Mitch at that.
Yeah, and so I was kind of prepping the sites, cleaning the toilets, sweeping the stages, and chucking people out at night, because I was there from the start to the end.
Wow.
And there was another guy who, really nice guy, who was kind of the studio manager in effect, but he was looking after the space because he was brought in. He was a quantity surveyor, and he was brought in to kind of do it as the development as it was going forward. And the longer it stalled, it wasn't the right job for him because we were doing. I mean, we the big thing that started is we did the first Highlander there. After the promo, we did the first Highlander, and that was obviously that was there for 8 months or whatever, And then we came out of that, and it was around about the time when I went back, when I joined, it was kind of early 80s. So it was a whole MTV thing, It was when pop vids were, there was directors who would say they wouldn't get out work if it was less than a 6-figure budget. Do you know what I mean? And that's before the zeros, and before the comma. Do you know what I mean? So it went from like a very static, long-term job to pop videos, and pop videos at the time and MTV were the kind of the foundation of the film industry for a lot of us. It's what brought a lot of us into it, and they were bang, 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 bang,
You're probably kicking them out at 5:55 and someone in at 6.
And sometimes, I mean, I remember we did a couple of AC/DC shoots with and Kiss shoots with Dave Mallet at MGMM, and they just kind of looked round. They just went round, bang, 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 sort of, one day to the next, one vid to the next. I think it was 5 days and 3 vids, and there was just, they would wrap at 2 o'clock in the morning. The construction crew would reset, blah blah blah. So anyway, the thing was that Richard was very sort of straight up and down, and we were moving from videos, and he would be sending a letter out to producers saying, trying to negotiate by letter. We still had letters in those days, and stamps and stuff, but it wasn't the pace. The pace had changed, and most of the production team didn't even know he existed, because he was in a remote office, and they thought I was managing it, so my boss said, look, would you manage the studios? Would you take it on? I said, well, look, I don't want to step in anyone else's shoes. The guy's got a job. I mean, you kind of. And he said, look, it's fine, because he'll do what he's suited to do. It's not as if he's been going out. I want you to do it. And I went, yeah, fine. And
well, you're getting paid for what you were doing.
Exactly. So that's where it kind of started for me.
Wow. Dog Biscuit Factory. Look at that.
Purely by accident, and we were churning out those vids, bang, 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 and as I say, lots of people who are now, people that have been on your podcast, DOPs, etc., etc., all came through that,
cut their teeth,
and kind of.
How long did that last for?
It lasted till 92.
Wow.
Yeah. A little bit later, actually, because
fair stretch. That's a fair old chunk of time.
It's a fair old stretch, and actually, the last couple of years, what happened is the property company went bust.
Okay.
Because there was a whole Black Monday or Black Friday when everything went down, and I went into work one day, and I'd already started Black Island just before, and I got a call to say, look, we need to have a chat, and I went, okay, and I went to chat to the FD, and he said, look, we're in shit creek, man, and the next morning, these 4 people carriers came in. And all these guys came out with black suits, white shirt and ties, the administrators.
Like Men in Black. So
it's the Men in Black. And they all went out of their way, and they came up and talked to me and said, look, why are you going to do that? He said, well, we're going to develop it. I said, well, the company, we're here filling a hole, doing this, what we do. The company's been trying to develop it for, getting on for 10 years. It's not going to happen overnight. So anyway, basically, I did a deal with them. In the last 3 years, I ran it. The company was PricewaterhouseCoopers, big accounting firm.
Wow,
and I ran it kind of in partnership with them. I paid them a rent and stuff. But I'd already started Black Island with 2 guys I knew from the music industry. My good pal Norman, who was a sound engineer, and Richard, who unfortunately didn't stay with us for very long. But they came to me, and they wanted to make a rehearsal studio. Okay. At Black Island, but
Black Island being before it was Black Island, the electrical store.
Before it was Black Island, the building later to be known as Black Island Studios. There was nothing going on there. It was an empty building, and they wanted to take over what is now Stage 2 and make it a rehearsal studio. And I said, look, guys, and they wanted me to feed work into it. And I said, look, guys, this ain't going to work. I said, because it's all very well you going in there now, it's empty. What happens when the other 2 units get occupied, which is now Stage 1 and Stage 3? Yeah.
Okay.
You're going to have problems. I said,
and what were they? And were they just kind of up for rental as anything, as just places?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I had been looking, and they had been looking. So we got together and said, well, look, the only way this is going to work is if we take over the whole shoot match, And luckily at the time, and they said, oh yeah, I said, because also, rehearsals are kind of very seasonal. You get the summer tours and you get the winter tours. It's not as if, so luckily at the time, at Jacob Street, we'd been doing a program called London's Burning, and
Jacob Street being the biscuit, the old
biscuit factory, yeah. And we'd also been doing kind of simultaneously with that worked together. We'd been doing a program called Spit and Image.
Amazing.
Which
has just come back.
Yeah,
I was going to say.
Yeah. And the producer on London's Burning started another show for LWT. I forget what it was called. It was called The Knock. So the schedules changed slightly.
Okay.
So they conflicted because the two would kind of follow each other in. And the guys at Spit and Image were great. I said, look, I'm not going to be able to do your show this year, but I may have somewhere to take you. And the kind of Roger Law and Joanna Beresford, who was the producer, and Derek Brown, who was the designer, said, well, let's look at the space. So we went and looked at the space, and they said, well, if you can get it, we'll come.
Amazing. So and now, I'm picturing it now. I'm kind of, because obviously I only know Black Island to have Sykes, Power, Tito, that's my vision of Black Island. But I'm guessing at this point there was no Syke, there was no nothing. It was just an empty studio. It was just an empty warehouse. Yeah,
there was nothing. Wow. There was no grids. There was nothing. In fact, the first job that came in before Spit and Image, they said yes, and we went and did the deal with the freeholders to say we'll take a lease on the building, and and we kind of, it was almost like one of those kind of back to backs, signed the contract with Spit and Image and signed the contract with the landlord. Which came first? You know what I mean? Like cowboy stuff, eh? And going to what you say, there was nothing there. The first job we did in Black Island was a promo before Spit and Image came in, because obviously they had their schedule, but it was a promo for Ozzy Osbourne on stage one.
Rock and roll,
baby. And the designer came in, a character I'd worked with for years, Bryce Walmsley. And I was up in the roof with Mitch and another good friend, and we were knocking out.
So Mitch was there from the beginning?
Mitch was with us at Black Island. He didn't work for us at Black Island, but he was part of kind of, stuff going on there. He was with a construction company and when we moved, Mitch, I think at the time Mitch was actually just helping us. He wasn't part of the Black Island team. He was there.
No.
And we were up in the roof taking out the insulation that was there to make it higher and cutting out the steels.
Wow.
And Bryce came in and he said, darling, you will promise me it will be ready, don't you? So that was the first job. So we just kind of went for it. Spit and Image were there for a while, and they took over a couple of stages, and then eventually I had to say, look, we kind of need to move on, because the whole thing about Black Island, apart from, it wasn't a case of substituting it for Jacob Street. It was a case of, we'd gone from the promos, they kind of started filming, and we'd gone into doing, Film 4 came along then, who was sponsoring a lot of British made films, like, who were great for the industry then. We did things like Prick Up Your Ears, blah, blah, blah. And it was kind of not really my scene, because for a studio manager, you kind of involved at the start, you're involved at the end, you're involved a bit at the beginning, but when something's kind of long running, you're kind of not really there anymore, and it was kind of not floating my boat. And also at the time, ironic now that that East London is quite a hotbed for film, certainly for crew and stuff, but commercials didn't want to come south of the river. It was like, because all the facilities, houses, Panavision, ARRI, AFM, they were all West London, because, and they felt that if they came, it might be that they didn't like me either, but they felt that if they came to South London, getting replacement lenses or whatever was too much, So I was actively looking for somewhere in West London because I wanted to go to commercials, because I felt commercials was where it was at. Do you know what I mean?
Short turnarounds,
and that's
fairly regular.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah, and as I say, kiss them in and kiss them goodbye, and don't have to put up with them for months, And
I guess actually, I've only just really thought about it, that you kind of moving in, because you said about Channel 4 that, and it only just struck me that obviously at some point there was only, one channel, then there was 2 channels, then there was 3 channels. But those first BBCs, there probably wasn't any need for commercials. And it was only maybe the start of the Channel 4 era that commercials started to become a much bigger thing.
Yeah, but also Channel 4. I'm not that old.
No, but what I'm saying is from a from a kind of history perspective, like for me, I'm like, commercials have always been around, but actually pre you, there probably wasn't much need for commercials.
Yeah, but no, there was. Obviously, ITV long predated, but
okay.
what made the difference is Channel 4 set up a film commissioning thing called Film 4, where they actually, were putting money into film, like Working Title did a lot of stuff through Film 4, so it was kind of like if you like, a strand, you still get, films on Channel 4, but they became commissioners, if you like, for independent or British films, so it was it was a new strand that came on.
Nice.
So and that's how, and I went to the commercial studio, and that's how we kind of came to Black Island.
Wow. And that process of starting what for me is now a second home, quick start, it sounded like Spit and Image came in. What's the process then up to then becoming a 6-stage studio in West London? Is it a long process? It feels like you were very much a step ahead of most things and just kind of gone with it.
I think it was a very easy process, because the reality is, when I started, or Norman, Richard and I started Black Island, we moved away from that very, very quickly. We moved away from that kind of, we're going to do rehearsals, although we still did do rehearsals, but the thing was, my idea was, if we're going to do this, we're going to the right place, because we're right in West London. It's brilliant transport links. You as an AD know that having a tube station just there for your extras is great. And I kind of wanted to, Spitting Image were great and fantastic, and I love them dearly, because they gave me the confidence, gave us the confidence and the opportunity to open it up with a solid baseline of income, But the whole idea was Black Island was going to be, and there were other studios catering for commercials around, obviously, but the idea was Black Island was going to be home to commercials, and all the time I was there, I resisted doing long form stuff, because the thing is, you kind of do long form stuff, you'll know as a crew member, you then kind of do something for 3 months, and when they leave, you're then out the cycle, and you've got a hiatus where you got to pick up that trend again. And also, over the years, I'd kind of heard, that people look, Pinewood and Shepperton, I'm doing a metaphysical bow down to them, fantastic, great for the industry.
That was actually a physical bow. Your hands went up.
Yeah, but the guys listen to this. If anyone listens to this, can't see it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I hear you. I hear
you. But they were very much the commercials were welcome, but they were welcome when they had the space.
Yes.
And also, there was a management infrastructure at Pinewood and Shepperton that wasn't as reactive to commercials as we could be. So my whole thing about it was, we're going to be the home of commercials. Nice. Yeah. So I guess, setting your stall out like that kind of made it much easier to get up and running quickly, And there's also, I guess, a timing's a great thing, I guess there was also, around about then when we started, there was new players coming in, new commercials companies coming out, so it's kind of, we were kind of growing with them, and having, in effect, a space dedicated to commercials made it easy to hit the ground pretty quickly,
Yeah. And I guess all those people that it's like, it becomes like a very quick, it feels like it would have been a quick kind of word of mouth thing, that you suddenly go, we're looking to do a commercial. All right, well, look, we went there last week. They're great. Let's go back there. That Absolutely. Kind of epitomizes also the industry as for crew members,
Absolutely. That crew thing, to be honest, Black Island, I'm an old geezer, so I didn't really understand it, but Black Island has never really done any marketing, because it's exactly that, you know, it's a freelance industry. And if you work with a production manager or a PA, and they come there and they do a commercial and they're happy, they then go to another production company, and when the producer says book a stage, they're going to say, oh well, yeah, we shot at Black Island a couple of weeks ago, let's see. Do you know what I mean? So what you're doing is you're kind of sending, you know, unconsciously, you're sending your kind of advocates and your ambassadors out there. You know, you do right by them, and they're going to kind of, you know, come back, you know. And the whole thing is, you know, because I think that, you know, Mark Dunn and Mitch and that are still doing it, you know, it's very important for a studio to look after everyone as much as you can. You know, you start with the art department and construction, you then get the sparks coming into pre-light, to the shooting crew, to the with production, to the art department striking again. Our job is to try and make everyone's life as easy as possible, you know, and try to look after them. Because, you know, all up the scale, you know, when a producer talks to a designer, you know, if the designer talks to his construction manager, if his crew are whinging about going somewhere, you know, I'm not saying they won't do it, but, you know, if you're up against another stage, if the crew are not happy to go there because, you know, they have to wait outside for someone to open the doors, or, you know, whatever, you know, then that's all taken in the balance, you know. And, you know, and as we were talking before, we started doing this, you know, the crew in the industry is a very flexible and dynamic thing, so they can go anywhere, you know. I mean, obviously you're not going to go to a stage that's 1,000 square feet when you need a 10,000 one, but, you know, as I say, all things being equal, then they will do that, you know. So I think, you know, part of it, you know, and it goes to silly little things, you know. You know, we've always made a point of, you know, the guys get there early. You know, the first thing you do is they switch the lights on the stage, switch the heaters, and they put the kettles on, so the construction guys can come in, have a cup of tea before they start work. You know, if there's called for 7:30, they need to go looking at them down at Jerry's Cafe because they're sat on the stage, you know, and ready to go. Do you know? So all those little things are kind of, you know, I mean, make a difference, I guess. You know, you try and keep everyone happy to the best of your ability and make life as simple as possible to the best of your ability. Do you know?
Well, it works for me as well, because second ADs normally tend to get an early call, so you kind of want to make sure, get there, get your, you know, your wardrobe, makeup, rooms warm, get the heaters on, get the lights on. You turn up, it's already done. All right, perfect. I'll stay in here. Now, I kind of want to. And the one thing that I've always wanted to, and it's always interested me, was you've kind of. It seems like your background wasn't film at all. You know, you didn't go to film school. I don't know your family history, and I don't know if anyone's in it, but you got kind of thrown into this environment that was alien to you, which probably have a lot of similarities with other industries. But did you ever kind of think, you know, you walk onto a film set and you go, I think I'd quite like to be an AD or a gaffer or an art department. Did that ever cross your mind to kind of go from office to film crew? Or was it just something that you were like, I'll leave it to them. This is what I do. This is what I'm good at.
Yeah, I can't say that sometimes I didn't think about that, you know, because as I say, I really like, you know, the crew ethos, you know, and, you know, people who know me know that I'm a bit of a old socialist and a romantic at heart. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like coffee. And you know, the film industry, you know, I mean, let's not put rose-tinted glasses, you know, there's kind of privilege and what have you in it, and everything, you know. But generally it's a socialist industry with, you know, with the right intentions. You know, every part of that crew counts, you know. You know, whether it's the stagehand sweeping up between shots, you know, to the DOP, you know, lighting this, but everyone has their moment. You know, one of the things that, as I say, I didn't talk properly much to people outside the industry, but one of the things, if they found out, that comes at your film crews, you know, there's so many people on a film set. I said, yeah, but, you know, when it comes to it, whether it be sort of, 8:30 at night or 2 o'clock in the morning, and someone needs to go up there and move that light, you need that rigger to be there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's they're all there to fill the purpose. And again, going back to what you said, a film crew is a dynamic, especially in commercials, like obviously in feature films, but even in feature films, obviously things change. But quite often in commercials, it's much more dynamic and things will change. So you need those people to be there, because if they're not there, you ain't going to get that shot, baby. Do you know what I mean?
And it's interesting that we do. I guess as a film crew, it is very kind of hierarchical. But actually, you're right that a film set without runners probably isn't going to work efficiently, because no matter how, like for me, having been a runner for a few years, you kind of realize actually if it's done right, being a runner, you are, you can get that tea to that sound man that hasn't been able to leave his desk, or the video op, or the director, or you're kind of handing your first AD a glass of water because they haven't drunk, and especially in these times where you're wearing masks for 14-hour days. And you're right, it's kind of that whole family. And this is what I'm loving about the podcast, is that everyone's got the same story, the same ethos. It's kind of, I worked hard, but I got lucky and I took my opportunities, and I tried to treat everyone fairly. Look, there's always going to be a few people that it gets to them, and the ego and the power and and it becomes, but actually that mentality seems to be lessening. So, and DPs and directors who were the top of the pyramid it's like they treat you with respect, which is lovely.
Absolutely.
As a
I mean, okay, look, it might be an element of feigned respect, but it's kind of still there, and people's jobs and their roles are valued. I mean, again, it's one of the benefits of being in a freelance industry, and there's some of them slip through the net, and we know that there's some slip through the net, but generally assholes get removed, because if you're an asshole, you're not going to get your next job, are you?
Completely.
Do you know what I mean?
No one wants to work for you. Or work with you.
I'm allowed to say asshole on your podcast?
Of course you can. You've just said it 4 times. I'm cool.
Well, I'm just going to go again. And it's interesting what you say about runners as well, because they're the kind of glue that makes it, but also, running is like the film industry's equivalent of a foundation course in art, isn't it?
Yeah. It's your apprenticeship.
Because I mean, and there are moves, to get apprentices in. I know that the equipment companies, the camera companies, lighting companies, it's been short-circuited a bit, if you'll pardon the expression, by COVID. But they're talking about doing apprenticeship schemes to bring people in. But on the set, the runner's job is that foundation course, isn't it? Because those guys that come in, those guys and girls that come in, it gives them the opportunity, as I've heard other people in your podcast say, it gives them the opportunity of saying, look, I want to get in here. And whether they've been through film school or whether they come in off the street, because they know someone or whatever, they can look round and say, I like what Tony Crouch does, I'd like to do that. Or I like what, the DOP is doing that. Maybe they might say, right, okay, I know that this works for me, and they might go off and do a film course, but it gives them the opportunity to observe, to learn, and to decide where they're going to take it, And again, to my guys or my people that, and the nice thing about it, sorry, I kind of keep interrupting myself. The nice thing about it is that if you've got the aptitude, the ambition, and the willingness, you can move really quickly in this industry. Do you know what I mean?
Agreed.
Especially now where there's an element where filmmaking has become a little bit more guerrilla. If you're creative, you can go out,
content are the new promos.
Filmed, and then it can be picked up, and and one of my little kind of pet sayings, I'll forget, I'll leave that for later. I've always said to my guys, I said, treat everyone the same and treat the runners with respect, because you don't know. They're important to you, because just the same as they're important to you as an AD or an AD department, they're important to us as studio and stage managers, because often they're our link in with everything,
Completely.
And also from that point of view, we've seen runners, the runners, 1 week, and they disappear, and 6 months later the director. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can go like that, So yeah, it's I think it's treat your runners well. They're not just
But
there
also
to be thrown, they're not just there to be thrown in the fire if it's
No,
cold.
completely. But also it's a good lesson for runners that actually they are the link. And I hadn't really kind of thought about it much, but they are the link between the production team, the shooting crew, and the studio hand.
Yeah.
And it's like, you all want to get things done quickly, and but they are the face of the production. If you're going up to the chef and you're saying, look, we're going to be 15 minutes late, it's those kind of relationships that you're kind of being able to build, the ability to tell people succinct messages at the time it's giving them a bit of a life lessons as well, I think, because you're talking to it's look, I can't wax lyrical enough about running. It's something that it's given me a complete in our industry. I'm not suggesting it's for everyone, but I agree with you. I think they are the glue.
Yeah, and I mean, over the recent years, they've been recognised more and they're getting a fairer deal, and I think that's important, because there was situations where they were getting a flat rate, and they're the first in and the last out often. Do you know what I mean? So it's good that it's recognised, if you like, more as a bona fide position, and not just.
Agreed.
You know what I'm going to say, yeah?
Yeah. We'll leave it. Yeah. So I guess you were just about to give us a little saying of yours, and then you stopped yourself. But I'd love to know what it was you were going to say, because you said, I'll say it later. But what were you going to? It was like, can you remember? Or have I just thrown in?
No, I can't remember. My kind of thing is, at the end of the day, as a studio manager, you're running a business, and your job is to get the stages full.
Yes.
But I've always believed in self-serving altruism. Which maybe comes from my kind of Italian roots, because Don Corleone had the same thing. You do someone a favor and you call that favor in later. Not quite as bad as that, but you do something for someone, and somewhere along the line, they're going to, you help someone out, and somewhere along the line they're going to help you back. I mean, we all through my period as as a studio manager, I've always responded to people that come up and say to me, look, we're shooting a little film, can we get a stage? And half the time you're never going to see that again. They're going to go on, and but then sometimes they'll become a DOP, or they'll become a director, and I've seen those, and it's also, I think we've got a duty, on all crew grades and as facilities companies, to enable people to come through.
Great.
For too long, our industry was quite a closed industry, and I think helping people up the ladder and opening up is very, very important, as I say, and hopefully, if you don't get a real benefit down the line, at least you'll get a bit of karma.
Yes. Well, agreed. Yeah, agreed. Well, there's a real push. I guess there's a real push to just get people from as many diverse industries, to diverse backgrounds into the industry. Because and it happened to me, and it's just, it's just how our country and our industry is. That was, a very specific type of person.
Yeah.
That I was kind of talking to, which is, across the crew, you kind of look around and you do see a lot of the same faces. And I just think that kind of that other backgrounds, new voices, can only be a good thing, further down the line, for different ideas from different backgrounds to me having Spanish heritage and Spanish background, my culture has got a different way of looking at things than someone from Scotland, someone from Uganda, someone from South America, and it can only benefit us as a creative industry to have all of those different ideas kind of being thrown in. So hopefully it can only be a good thing.
Well, I totally agree, and it goes beyond benefit. I think as an industry, as a society, it's our duty to try and be as open as possible, isn't it? There's some Paul McClune with Just Runners is trying to do that. You know,
Brilliant.
he's been pushing. I know he's been pushing that for a while. You know, and it's not right that you look on a film set, you know, and it appears to be just one socioeconomic and, you know, and dare I say,
Demographic.
also, you know,
Yeah.
racial
Yeah.
configuration. Do you know, for one of it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And you know,
completely.
and it is. We are getting there, you
Yeah,
know, but
slowly.
you know, and I think the important thing is the will is there to do it. You know, you can't press a button and make it happen overnight, but it
No.
is happening.
Mm.
You know, and I think
Agreed.
that's good and you know and important. You know,
And are you looking, I guess, kind of being just slightly like having removed, because you said, you know, you kind of stepped away a bit, but is it tough that, you know, do you just kind of feel like you still want to be delving into it full time? Are you kind of, are you enjoying what you're doing, and where are you at, sir? What's
um,
the Steve Guidici doing nowadays?
I mean, I'll tell you the truth, and this is not because you know, I love the guys I work with, you know, because the other part of the story is I started Black Island with my two partners, and then we got involved with AFM,
Hmm.
and then we got involved with Panavision. You know, there was takeovers and sales and what have you,
Hmm.
and towards the end of my working time with Panavision, what happened was that I found myself doing more and more back office stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Looking in, you know, which was great. You know, I mean, they had the confidence in me to give me those jobs, etc. But my heart was really on the end of a phone in the
Mm.
studio, talking to you, talking to, you know, talking to production managers, talking to PAs, and
Yeah.
I kind of found myself. I guess it's going back into that look that I flashed up early on. You know,
Mm.
I loved promos, I loved commercials because it was immediate, it was reactive. I didn't like feature films as much, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, hey, don't get me wrong, you know, AFM and Panavision were really good to me, and you know, and I love them all to bits. But my role changed, you know.
Mm.
Whereas, you know, at one point I was 100% studio,
Hmm.
and then I
As you
tried,
said,
you know,
cleaning the
and people,
floors, painting the
and
stage, you know, you were there. It was
exactly,
in
and
the
even
heart of it.
even at Black Island, you know, I was behind it, and people would phone me up and they say, oh, you know, we didn't expect you to get you know, answering the phone, you know, on a pencil inquiry. I said, well, at the end of the day, if those pencils don't come in,
Mm.
we ain't got a business, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, that's the most important thing, you know, talking to people, and you know, and you know, the whole pencil system, liaison with producers, with PAs, you know, and just keep that information flowing about what's happening with the job. So I guess where I'm going, God, I talk a lot, don't I?
I
Where I'm
love
going
it.
is that
Love it.
the focus of my job changed from being
Yeah.
100% studio to being sort of and being on the front line, for want of a better word,
Mm.
to being back office.
Mm.
And that kind of wasn't, you know, it felt as if I was slowly putting a collar and tie on and maybe even slipping on a suit, you know,
You're
metaphorically, you
getting
know.
close. You were getting close to being that guy with the briefcase. Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of, you know, and as I say, I loved it to bits, and you know, and you know, and thank you to FM Panovich and having his trust in me, but it wasn't where I wanted to be, and that's where I said, do you know what? Enough.
Mm.
You know,
Time to step up.
and if I had still been behind the phone, behind my desk up at Duke's Island taking pencil, I'd probably still be there.
Yeah.
You know,
And you
because
and it's Auntie Pauline. So and I guess the first time
Annie
I heard
Pauline,
about you and Pauline, and someone was like, "Oh yeah, just get on the call to Auntie Pauline." That kind of that, but it was no, but it kind of summarized the feel of Black Island. You know, it's like Steve and Auntie Pauline, and I'm like, who's on? I thought it was your. At first, I was like, why's he bringing his auntie to work? Like, I don't know who's auntie. Like who?
Annie Pauline and Granddad Steve G.
Like you get a Christmas
Yeah,
card from grandpa and Auntie Pauline.
yeah,
How does
and I
that?
guess
I was
go
just going to
on.
ask about how she came in and what that kind of relationship, and how did that grow?
Yeah. I mean, Pauline was really interesting. You know, it's really interesting. She actually worked for AFM.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was like an account handler for AFM.
Hmm.
And when I sold Black Island to AFM
Hmm.
back in whenever it was, I was looking around for someone, and Pauline was suggested, and it was really interesting because it describes, I guess it describes, you know, what's good about running a studio and being a studio manager, a studio, you know, is that you become more. Pauline had worked for AFM. Her family had a lighting business, Fenner Lighting.
Okay.
And you know, as these things go, things move on, and she ended up working for AFM as an account handler, looking after a lot of the top gaffers and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was just a kind of point that I was looking for someone to help me in the office as we were growing, because when I sold out to AFM, that's when we took on stage 5 as well, stage 5 and 6.
Okay.
So I was expanding, you know.
So whereabouts was this? This was 90s,
I guess that was about
80s?
2000. I think about 2000.
Okay.
You can't push me, Isusko. I'm an old man. I'm getting a bit senile, so I'm not good with dates.
I'd like to see an exact date and time of the contract, please.
Timeline.
Timeline.
So it was about then. So we kind of expanded into stage 5 and 6. Actually, it was probably a little bit before that, because then we took on Duke's Island Studios as well, which was, you know, Richard Gambo and Mike Woolard had set that up really, and you know, great studio. So we took that on, and I needed more people. And initially, Pauline was a bit reticent. You know, she loved her Spark, she loved her gaffer. She'd grown up in the industry, and she kind of wasn't, you know. And she thought, oh, I'm getting shunted around here. So we went and had a bit of lunch or dinner or something. I talked to her. I said, look, you know, come over. You will like it. I took her round, and she came over, and you know, she'd gone from like talking to people, but you know, an account handler's job in a lighting company, especially one as busy as AFM were, is kind of hard work. You know, you're there, you bang, bang, bang. And she kind of knew all these people's names, you know, not so much as Sparks and the gaffers, because obviously they would go in, but the production people, she knew all these people's names, but she'd never met them.
Yeah.
You know, and all of a sudden she come over to the studios and she kind of lapped it up, because, you know, all of a sudden these names that, you know, were only names would come up in the office and sit down and have a cup of tea, you know, have a coffee and have a chat, you know, because it's, you know, when the shoot's going on, you know, production manager, you know, is still busy, but they've got a little bit more time. So all of a sudden it's become a much, you know, running a studio is a much more a social interaction, you know, because you're there, you know. One of the things that I kind of love doing on the same extent is, you know, my routine before I started putting on half a suit was, you know,
top half or bottom half. I still
let's leave it there, okay. You know, my thing was, you know, in the morning, I'm an early morning person, so I'd be down there in the morning, you know, sort of 7 o'clock or whatever, and see people coming in, have a little chat, you know, find out what's going on, you know, and then go up to the office later. And then at night time, I'd always go down and have a trip around the stages, you know, sit in a flight case and have a bit of a gas with someone, you know, just, you know. So it is, you're meeting the people you're working with, you know, whereas, you know, in okay, I mean, account handlers getting out, but a lot of them, certainly, and AFM was very high pressure then, because they were doing practically all the commercials out there. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
It was a different environment. So she really took to it like a duck to water. And of course, you know, Pauline's got the same. Some might call it affliction. Some might call it an advantage, that same as me, she can gab. You know, she can talk. You know,
it's a gift.
And she's a warm person, and she cares about people. You know, so she kind of, you know, it's you try and look after people the best you can. You know what I mean? I'm talking about producers and production managers. You know, it's just, and one of the things that I think most people will say about us, and Pauline's still doing it now, is that, you know, and this goes back to making it for commercials. You know, we're always available. Yeah. You know, I was always available 24/7. You know, so, you know, I'd get calls on a Sunday afternoon sometimes, you know, and it might
studio shooting. They need to chat to someone,
or even checking, you know, like a budget, or sometimes I'd even get calls from, you know, from people in other studios who knew with security and say, look, we've run out of paint. Can we come and borrow some paint from you? Do you know what I mean? So
nice.
It's just, you know, you got to be committed to it, you know, because it's a 24/7 industry. So you kind of, you know, and that's going back to what I was saying, some other studios that were maybe more into the long form, you know, it's kind of like, they kind of worked office hours, you know, and you can't do that. You need to be available, you know. It's maybe it's a bad thing because but you know, it's a reactive industry that was, you know, also as well as proactive. So you've got to react, and that's what makes the connection. I've had jobs where, you know, over the years where literally people have said, "Oh, we tried to phone up somewhere else, but no one was picking up the phone." You know, because it might be a Saturday and they've had a blowout somewhere. You know, they've had a location that's blown out, and they phone you up and say, "Look, we've blown out this," and you know, I'm not making this up just for the, you know, we've had a location that's blown out, and have you got a stage for us on Monday? You know, and we go, yeah, you know, because you're on top of it, you know, you carry that booking diary in your head. And say, I can put you in stage 3, or I can put you in stage 2, or I can put you in White Dukes, you know, and you know, and people don't forget that, you know, they know that, you know, that you're there for them when they need it. Do you know what I mean? You know, and
I love it. And I guess you it sounds like you started, and from the chat that I'm getting, you kind of found people who feel like they've got a very similar work ethic and mindset. It's like you, Pauline, Mitch, creating this thing, and that kind of family environment which we have on set. It felt like you kind of created it offset, and I don't know where I'm going. It's not. It doesn't even feel like a question, but it feels like that's what the environment you kind of get. And as you said, it's like you turn up to some stages, you're fine with your shit, other ones, and you're just like, "There's a security, go over there." Don't, you know? And then don't even speak to the stagehands.
Mr. Garcia, if I can put into words what you're trying to articulate,
please do take over. The floor is yours.
I'd like to think for the period of that commercial, you know, and I, you know, my thing has always been once the production is on the stage, that's their stage, they've paid for it, and that's their home, you know. And I'll often ask permission to go on the stage because, you know, I wouldn't come into your hotel room without knocking. Do you know what I mean? But I like to think for the period of that shoot, you know, from pencil to strike, our little team at the Islands is part of the crew. Do you know? You know? Okay, we're not the creative part of the crew. We're maybe sort of secondary, but we're part of the crew. You know, we're there to you know, to help out the best we can. You know, and you know, we all tout it around. You know, we're part of the film fam. Do you know what I mean?
Film family. Film family.
Yeah.
Love it. So I guess we're kind of Zoom saying we've been on the chat for an hour.
Really?
And I know
you talk too much, man.
I know. I'm so sorry. I haven't
even let a whole list of stuff here that I
let you get a word in edgewise.
Let me do it.
I'm so sorry. I should have shut up more. I should have said. But I don't like. That's not me saying we need to stop. But I guess if there's like, you know, towards the end of the episode, there's the 2 questions. But I don't feel like it feels like we're still. It doesn't feel like I'm at the end of the ep yet. And I don't want it to. You know, and the thing is that this is, as much as it's kind of waxing lyrical at Black Island, there's more about. It's not on. You know, it's an advert for us as an industry, for, you know, it's your episode of you as a person. And I guess it also is it just shows how we as, and this is not like a short form versus long form, because I've never really been on long form, but the podcast, the atmosphere on set, it is a family, and everyone creating that family environment from top down, from studio to wherever. I think that's what you're kind of, this is what I'm getting from you. It's like you've never, it's not that you've been a crew member so you know the crew, but actually you don't need to have been a crew member to realize that. And we spoke about offline, it's, you know, people outside of our industry. If we had a commercial for a car company and they're like, we need to get a Technocrane at the top of Mount Everest, most, you know, Kate in accounts for God knows where, I don't know why Kate, I don't know, but they go impossible. Whereas us as film crew, we go, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
And we figure out the solutions. And I guess that's and it's not even a question. I'm still not, I haven't even asked a question, but that mentality, that's what I'm getting from you. And I don't know, you know, again, I'm rambling, but it feels like this is the stuff.
No. Listen. We're kind of there. You know, I mean, I get what you're saying. You know, and I guess that's maybe even the difference. You know, and you know, I do know crew. We do know crew. We've grown up with them, you know. I mean, I've grown up faster than a lot of them, you know, in terms of years. But there's also a satisfaction, you know, for me, and I think generally, you know, that on a commercial, you can come in at the start of the day or the start of the week, and you know, and I'm a bit of a sucker for the art department, because I guess that's my background. I like seeing them walk into an empty stage, you know, and you know, a day later, a week later, there's this fantastic set that then the rest of the crew come in and do their work on, you know. But I guess there's also the satisfaction that, you know, especially now where, you know, you've got your DIT and you've got your screens, that you can actually see what 50, 70 people, you can actually see what you've done. You know, it's okay. I know it might go 3 months into post-production or whatever, but you know that you've completed something. You know, you've walked in that morning, you know, the set's ready, the gaffer and DOP have put the lights, the directors kind of like, you know, the ADs and the directors have done their thing, the actors have moved on, and hey, you can see it. We've done that today, do you know? And there's a satisfaction to that. And there's also that satisfaction, you know, which we've played a part in on stuff. You know, I've had situations, for example, where, you know, there's an art direct, you know, on a small scale, where there's been a bus turned up that was going to go on stage 2 and it never got through the doors, you know, and you say, like, what can we do? And I know what we can do. We can take it around to loading bay stage 5, get some drapes about, and we'll shoot it there, you know, because it doesn't really need to be you come here because we've got the power, we understand what you want to do, and you wanted to get light in it. But you know, if everyone works together, we can make this happen, you know, rather than going, oh, what we're going to do, you know. So that kind of dynamic ability that a film crew brings, you know, is kind of admirable, and it's fun, you know. I know we're a business, but you know, as I said at the start, I'd rather have spent however many years I have in this industry than worked in a fucking bank. Oh, sorry.
And I get, have you kind of worked? Did you kind of go and touch base in America? Have you been to other places, or have you just? Is it been UK? So you know, did you go and try out or go and see studios in LA? Did you know what was that creation period like?
Only as a business. I mean, obviously did a bit of work down in South Africa where the company's got, you know, and you know, that was quite exciting. I mean, mixed feelings about South Africa, obviously for obvious reasons, because even now, you know, you can see what had gone on there. You know, from drive to the airport to Cape Town, you know, you're kind of going through stuff, you know. But but essentially, you know, I've got a Scottish accent, but I'm a London boy.
That's it. You're a London boy. And I guess, so what, you know, you've said you've got a load of, there was a few bits that we haven't touched base on. Is there anything that next generation that you want to pass on, that you want to have a chat about? What have you got on your list of things that I haven't asked? That, because obviously I'm going to do the advice for younger self and then your shout outs at the end. But did you have, you know, I guess there's like the lightning bolt, you know, it feels like we've gone through the route, but is there anything there that is there like something chunky there that I've missed?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I just think, you know, if you know, if I was to dare to speak to the younger generation, I just think, you know, look for the opportunities. The opportunities are there, but you've got to look for them, and you know, you've got to take the chance when you see that opportunity. You know, I mean, you know, to me, life is like a motorway. Yeah, you're kind of going down a route which to some extent is preordained, because it's going to take you from London to Bristol, you know, or London to Manchester.
But metaphorically beginning to end, you know.
Metaphorically beginning to end. But along the road, there's slip roads, you know, and that's those slip roads, potentially, if you see them soon enough and recognize them, they can present opportunities. So be aware of that, take them, you know, and you know, my overriding thing as well is just whatever you're doing, you know, respect people, you know.
Nice. Well, I guess that first, you know, obviously touching base on the respect people, it kind of goes back to what we said about the running and you know, if you're, you know, for want of a better phrase, you're kind of bottom of the barrel as a runner, for metaphorically. but that respect throughout the crew, I think, is almost is so important and integral. And that opportunity, you mentioning about slip roads and motorways and taking the opportunity, I think most people listening to this very, very easily would, or very quickly would kind of go, I totally get what you're saying, because you kind of go, you started off outside the industry working for someone. They saw an opportunity to make a film stew. You saw an opportunity to do something else. You saw an opportunity, it's those opportunities. And I guess it's the trust in your instinct. You're not, you didn't grow up in film. You weren't the son of a gaffer and surrounded by, it was like you kind of took any opportunities that you could to get to the places that you were. And look, I don't know, we won't ever delve into the whole backstory, but there's probably opportunities that came your way that you said no to, that you've gone, fuck, I wish I had. There was probably some that came along that you went, I wish I hadn't. But I guess that's the whole, the roadmap of sorts of life,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, totally. It's you've got to keep your wits about you. You've got to be aware, and and don't be afraid to take, I mean, I was in a job, at Jacob Street, and I started Black Island because I wanted to kind of further, I chanced into this industry. I liked it, and I wanted to kind of secure my future in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I took that opportunity, and it just so happened that it was at a time that property was, in a bit of a doldrum, because in reality, and I guess that's what I mean, be aware, because in reality, if we'd probably been a year earlier or a year later, the guys that own Black Island wouldn't have leased it to us. Do you know what I mean? It was the right moment, the right time, and just just keep scanning, keep scanning and just look for it, And I think that goes to whether you're on the set and you want to step up, listen to people, respect them, take their advice, look for the opportunity, and be brave and go for it.
Oh, great! Like this, beautiful. I love it. Amazing. You're right. There's a lot of new runners that are going to come in that don't have the experience, to have the confidence, but actually part of the industry is just having that kind of slightly soft crust of confidence on the outside, that then the inside gets stronger. Do you know what I mean? So that it's like, go on, have fun, have respect. Beautiful. An amazing ep. I think it's been brilliant. Amazing.
Good.
So
Good.
I guess we get to this point, and I always love, especially with a man of your experience, and I know that you're not a big talker, so I'm sorry that I've had to talk so much and interject, but this is your moment that I give to you. I don't say anything. What would you, now being where you are, and I always kind of prefix this question with the kind of the phrase of, I don't know at what point and all the rest of it. But actually for this one, I would you have, or what would you say to that young Stevie G that was at a dog biscuit factory for the first time, thinking, the fuck am I doing? This isn't me. This isn't what I do. I'm a proper, I work in property. I do this. What would you say to that person now?
You did the right thing, mate.
Beautiful. Ladies and gents, Stevie G. Woo! So now I step away from the microphone. The floor is yours to kind of give a shout out to people, to projects, to things that are close to your heart, industry or non-industry related. It doesn't matter. It's your platform. So I wheel my chair away, and the floor is yours, sir.
Okay. I just want to thank everyone I've worked with. Yeah. And that's on both sides, production and the guys that looked after me, Pauline, Mitch, all of those people. And I guess the one thing really, which is kind of, I just want to say, what is it you say? Big ups?
Yeah, big up, big love. Yeah.
Big love.
Yeah.
Which is really brilliant. And I think it goes along with what we're saying about Film Fam is, a few years ago, Von the Don came up to me and kind of asked me, we should do a party, mate. And he kept coming back and saying, we should do a party, mate,
Yeah.
And I went, no, Vaughn, it's too messy, man. I can't do it. And then sadly, the late, great King of the Trolls, Barry Wasserman, died. And I went, let's do it. Yeah. So Rodden, Vaughan, Ben Ansell, Onka, Mickey Richards, respect. We won't have one this year, but we will next year. Enjoy it. Yeah.
Big love. Very true.
Epitome of the film family. Yeah.
Agreed. And those blue plaques, they're there. They are now part of our generation's film history, because it's film history. It's part of it's now part of our DNA. It means the world. One, it's a great party, but
Absolutely.
two, the reasonings behind it. And again, this goes to this, just, as you said, Rod and the boys and Von, and, they kind of, what they do to support our industry for they're not making money. This isn't a money making venture. This is a chance.
And it goes back, and I don't know which one of us kind of came up with it, but it's by crew for crew, and it's just a great thing to pull together. And let's just hope that in 2021 we're not having to give it to someone who's left us.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah,
agreed. Well, look, ladies and gents, for those of you who don't know, they're at stages 5 and 6 for a number of years back to back. There was parties called That's a Wrap, which for very much a short form. There were, anyone could come. It was an open invite, but very much of our short form family that had sadly passed away or left us, and funds were kind of created, and it brought everyone together. It was also a kind of well done for the year, for the crew, for the hard work and everything. But underlying that, there was this kind of, let's not forget our other brothers and sisters who, and this is the thing, is that, you meet someone and you work with them for 10, 15 years. You might not see them for 5 years, but then you see them on a stage, and you haven't been together for 5 years, and it's like you've never been apart. And that's Absolutely. The beauty for me of our industry. And that's what got us through the pandemic, but even though we're still in it, but as in lockdown. And as you, and you're right, it's a massive shout out to everyone that kind of created it, and the Jim Morrisons and all those people that have given back so much. And I guess for a thank you from the crew to you for allowing it to happen, and for us to being able to kind of send our love and being able to kind of give a party, because that's what we do. It's the party for the people that won't be there to party with us, and massive love and big respect for everyone that helps put it together. And I love it. That's a great shout out.
And it's going back to what I said, it's self-serving altruism, it's a hell of a party, we all enjoy it, but somebody benefits from it. So Great. Peace, brother.
Thank you, sir. Well, look, ladies and gents, I'll do the outro, because I think that whether you came onto this episode to listen to how to become a studio manager or not, you've come on because you might know this man and you might love this man and respect this man, or you might not know him at all. And what you've got from it is a blueprint of how to make yourself and create an environment around you as a self-employed crew member, giving you the best chance to be able to do it for 20, 25 years and to create a life for you and your family. And I just really, really, Steve, I really want to give you the Film Gods round of applause. Woo, 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 for coming on and giving me over an hour of your time to talk about your story. And as I said, if someone came in and wanted to listen to it to be a studio manager, they get it. If those people who are listening because they love you, they hear the stories and they learn a little bit about you. And for someone that doesn't know you and just wants to hear about making it in the industry, I think it's been a fantastic ep. So ladies and gents, send him your love. I'll post it all over Instagram and Facebook. Share it to people, send it to the film students, because these are the people, these are the experienced people that are able to give your brothers and sisters and cousins and runners the experience and the knowledge to be able to create it. So I thank you again, sir. And ladies and gents, until we meet again in Black Island Canteen, big love, massive respect, and that is a wrap. So that was a chat with the king or queen in the game. I'll give it a shout at the end so you all know the name. It's the Film Gods Podcast. The what? The Film God Podcast.